Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with the unions and so on, and how the government's likely to deal with it. And I particularly want to talk about the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman. Before I do that, I would just like to thank very much all those of you who've been kind enough to buy my little book last week. It is still available. It's a brief and satirical account of Brexit and make a perfect stocking filler. My website is ml44.com, and I'll leave a link down below if you're interested. So I was watching the reports of the demonstration in Parliament Square by the CWU, the Postal Workers Union, on Friday, and I was really impressed by how united they were and how resolute they were, and you can see that they're pretty determined. And we know that they're one of many unions that are either on strike or going to go on strike. Now, the government, we know, is the government is presiding over an economic collapse. We can see that everything is going to pieces, and we all know that after Christmas things are going to get much worse. And everyone's suffering from a cost of living crisis. We know that something I've been warning about for a very long time is that there are going to be big food shortages in the new year. And unions who've got the power to do something have said, we've had enough of this. And if enough of them go on strike, I mean, they could well end up with a national strike, a general strike rather. And I was just wondering how the government can deal with this. And it seems to me they've got two options. One is to give in, and the other is to confront the unions. Now, they can't really give in to just a few unions. So they either have to give in to everybody or nobody. If they give in to everybody, that would be so inflationary, and I think it's totally against everything they're standing out for. And I think it's very unlikely to happen that they will actually give in. So it seems most likely that they're just going to go on with this policy of confronting the unions. I think they're probably hoping that public opinion will swing against the unions. I think that's extremely unlikely. It seems that everybody's suffering from the cost of living crisis, and I think most people look at the unions and think, well, if they're not in a union, thinking, well, if I knew I was in a union, I'd be on strike, because people are really suffering. So I think that if the government is hoping for public opinion to change, I think they're mistaken. And so it's a question of what then happens. And I think if the government do decide they're going to confront the unions, it seems to me almost certain they're going to start trying to legislate. They've already hinted at it. Legislate to make it more difficult to go on strike. And again, I think this is probably not going to work. But we've got a really very unpleasant and aggressive Home Secretary who will relish the prospect of bringing in tougher legislation. I mean, tougher legislation for anything. I mean, she just loves being nasty to people. I mean, it's just like her predecessor, Priti Patel. And I was looking at both Patel and Braverman the other day and seeing what they've done, what they're doing. Patel was a complete and utter failure as a Home Secretary, absolutely failure. She was obsessed with stopping the little boats coming across the channel, and that really did for her in the end. But she was just a thoroughly unpleasant woman. She was, guilty of bullying and so on. She brought in the police crime sentencing and courts bill. That was the bill which gave police a lot of powers they didn't particularly want, but powers to stop and search, powers to stop demonstrations and so on, just taking away a lot of our rights. This is all sort of done on behalf of Johnson, who just wanted to make it more and more difficult for anyone to challenge him. She wanted to bring on it. She wanted to amend the Official Secrets Act. I don't know whether she did or not. I don't think it went through, but she wanted to amend that whereby, if you, she said that whistleblowing was tantamount to spying, and so, for example, if a newspaper written the story of Misha Amon and the PPE last week, any journalist could have faced imprisonment if that information had come from a whistleblower, could have faced up to 14 years in prison. That was the way she was going to deal with people being rude about the government in the press and so on. Thoroughly horrible woman. And then she was, as I say, she was obsessed with stopping immigrants. It's interesting that both Patel and Braverman, both children of immigrants, not people escaping any danger. They were economic migrants. They came to this country, did very well. They did extremely well if their daughters ended up as Home Secretaries. She, as a daughter of immigrants, had this extraordinary, it was almost a sort of crazy hatred of other immigrants, and she was so passionately determined to stop them coming. She wanted to send them off to, she wanted to send them back to Europe, and she couldn't. She wanted to send them to Ascension Island, she couldn't. Then she came up with this Rwanda policy, which is a complete and utter mad disaster. And in order to generate hostility towards these people, she described them once, these people coming across, these desperate people coming across the channel in their little boats, she described them as rapists, child rapists and murderers. That's why she had to stop them, because they're child rapists and murderers. And the only reason that there's so many boats coming across the channel is, of course, because the legal routes have been blocked. She absolutely blocked them. And she claimed that there were safe and legal routes, when in fact there aren't any. She's blocked them all, unless you come from a particularly someone like Ukraine. But even then, of course, you've got to apply for a visa, unlike most countries. And incidentally, she was also very much involved in one of the PPE contracts. She sent a number of emails to Gove and Hancock and so on, trying to get a deal for one of her someone she knew. And that hasn't yet come out, but maybe that'll come out in due course. But as I say, Patel was a really thoroughly unpleasant woman, a woman who was found guilty of bullying in 3 different departments, and only remained in office because Johnson refused to sack her, saying he had 100% confidence in her. And her successor, Suella Braverman, is another extremely unpleasant woman. A woman who appears to have no empathy whatsoever, a really, really tough nut. She's a woman who she thinks that the government should be much tougher on benefits claimants. She thinks too many people are getting benefits who shouldn't get them. She's a woman who's pushing through at the moment something called the Public Order Bill, which is a bill which will give her enormous powers, really quite extraordinarily strong powers. She will be able to stop any demonstrations that she doesn't approve of. She will be able to stop anybody going on a demonstration, or even if she thinks somebody might be going on a demonstration, she'll have the power to stop them doing so. She might even be able to tag anyone who she thinks might be going on a demonstration. The idea, of course, is to clamp down on the climate change protesters, who she describes as thugs and vandals. And she gave a speech to some chief police constables a few weeks ago, in which she said that the police should, her advice was, the police should handle protesters more robustly. Now that's pretty clear what more robustly means. It means use physical violence. And so we have a Home Secretary who's taking on all these enormous powers, quite unprecedented. And she's telling the police to beat up protesters. This is what we see on our television screens every night. We see from Russia, we see from Belarus, or from Myanmar and China and so on. We see police beating people up in these authoritarian states. This is becoming a police state. It's absolutely terrifying, and it's being done gradually, which is why they get away with it. It started with Patel's bills, and it's carrying on. And if it does come to a confrontation between the unions and the authorities, if the government does decide to clamp down, I mean, they've got all the powers. They can even, she will even be able to stop people who she suspects of going on picket lines. And like Patel, she has this obsession. She admits it's an obsession of stopping people coming, asylum seekers coming here. And since there are no legal routes or legal safe routes to come here, people can only come here illegally, unless they're from a country such as Ukraine or Hong Kong. They can only get here by coming on little boats at great risk. And she's as obsessed as Patel was or is to stop this. And she said at the Tory conference, she said that her dream and her obsession, those are the words she used, her dream and obsession was to see on the front of the Daily Telegraph a picture of a plane taking off carrying asylum seekers. You know, we're paying Rwanda £140 million. That's what we've paid them so far for this pie-in-the-sky nonsense. And they've said apparently they can only take 200, so that's £700,000 per rejected asylum seeker. I mean, what's the point of that? And this is meant to be a deterrent. You know, what have we had? 50,000 people have come across the channel in boats this year, and we can send 200 of them to Rwanda. What sort of a deterrent is that? And it's just the cruelty of it. I mean, why would you know, if somebody's come to this country and they've come from a hostile country and they've been refused a right to remain, and then they're sent to the middle of Africa and just dumped there. I mean, who would do anything like that? And the reason, of course, the plane didn't take off, the original plane didn't take off a few months ago, which I think was going to be carrying four asylum seekers to Rwanda, was because their lawyers appealed to the European Court of Human Rights, who said that this was wrong, it was inhumane, as have many organisations throughout the world have said this is not a fair or reasonable policy. So what she wants to do? She says we must leave the European Court of Human Rights. This is something we set up. We were involved in setting up. And so what's happening now is Raab, another one who's so angry. Why are they so angry? You know, Braverman is so angry, and so is Raab. He wants to be in a Bill of Rights. That Bill of Rights will give him the power to overrule rulings of the European Court of Human Rights. You know, as I said just now, this is really, really frightening, and we should be really concerned about it because it's being done gradually, it's been done slowly, and it's not being noticed particularly. And yet we're going to end up living, as we are now, beginning to be, in a police state, an authoritarian police state. It is just so far from what, you know, traditionally we've been, you know, a fair, decent, peaceful country. And I think the more likely it is that there's going to be a confrontation between the government and the unions, the more likely it is that this more draconian legislation will be pushed through. So beware. I mean, I made a video just over a year ago. I had more views on that video than any other I've ever posted, and it was about Patel and what she was doing, and I was warning there that we should be very worried about this, about what is happening. In fact, I'll put a link to that video if you're interested. I'll put a link in down below. So anyway, that's what I think about it, and as I say, I think we should all be very, very, very concerned. I think the government's in a corner. We've got a really, really aggressive, nasty Home Secretary who's ready to do anything necessary to do what she needs to do. So anyhow, That's all I'm going to say for now. But if you've watched this far, thank you very much for watching. And just another brief reminder, if you're interested in having a look at my book, it's you can see about it on my website, ml44.com. And so until next week, thank you for watching, and bye for now.